The idea that a human could deliberately choose to live as a predator rather than as a protected member of civilization feels uncomfortable because it challenges a modern illusion. For most of human history, survival depended not on systems, technology, or safety nets, but on the ability to track, confront, and overcome other living beings in direct competition. Kraven the Hunter emerges from this forgotten biological reality. He is not simply a fictional antagonist created to fight a superhero. He is a conceptual experiment that asks what happens when a human refuses to abandon the predatory role that shaped the species. Sergei Kravenov, known as Kraven, is introduced as a man who believes that modern humans have become weak by outsourcing danger. In evolutionary terms, this idea is not irrational. Anthropology and evolutionary biology show that Homo sapiens evolved under constant selective pressure that rewarded endurance, situational awareness, aggression control, and long-term planning. These traits did not disappear. They were suppressed by social structures. Kraven represents a conscious reversal of that suppression. From a scientific perspective, Kraven's worldview aligns closely with what is known as mismatch theory. This concept explains how traits that evolved for ancestral environments often clash with modern conditions. Humans evolved as endurance hunters, capable of tracking prey for hours or days, reading subtle environmental cues, and managing fear under sustained stress. In modern society, these abilities are rarely required. Kraven's philosophy assumes that removing these pressures creates biological atrophy, not physically at first, but mentally and behaviorally. The character's aristocratic background is not accidental. Historically, elite hunting cultures existed across Europe, Asia, and Africa, where hunting was both ritualized and strategic. Russian nobility, in particular, maintained hunting traditions that emphasized dominance over nature, self-discipline, and mastery of terrain. These practices were not symbolic games. They were structured tests of competence and hierarchy. Kraven is written as someone raised inside this tradition, inheriting a worldview where worth is measured through confrontation with danger rather than avoidance of it. Before we dive in, comment where you're watching from and subscribe to Primal Roots. Unlike most fictional villains, Kraven does not seek chaos or destruction. His objective is evaluation. He hunts to measure himself against the strongest possible targets. This aligns with documented behavior in both human and non-human predators. Apex predators do not select prey randomly. They assess risk, energy expenditure, and potential reward. Choosing difficult prey is costly, but reinforces dominance and adaptive learning. Kraven's fixation on the most formidable opponents reflects this evolutionary logic. Biologically, Kraven's physical abilities are often misunderstood. He is not portrayed as limitless or invulnerable. His strength, reflexes, and stamina are enhanced through conditioning and fictional herbal compounds. But the foundation mirrors real physiological mechanisms. Studies on adaptogens, stimulants, and pain-modulating substances show that temporary increases in endurance, alertness, and stress tolerance are possible without altering human genetics. While the comics exaggerate the results, the premise itself is rooted in documented biochemical effects. Equally important is Kraven's psychological profile. He demonstrates extreme self-regulation, delayed gratification, and identity cohesion. These traits are associated with individuals who thrive in high-risk environments such as special operations forces, elite hunters, and extreme survivalists. Kraven does not act impulsively. He plans, observes, waits, and strikes only when conditions are optimal. This behavioral pattern reflects executive control rather than emotional instability. His rejection of firearms in favor of primitive weapons is also consistent with his philosophy. From a biomechanical and cognitive standpoint, close-range hunting requires superior timing, spatial awareness, and emotional control. Firearms reduce the distance between predator and prey, lowering cognitive demand. Kraven's choice increases risk intentionally, transforming the hunt into a full-spectrum test of human capability. This is not romanticism. It is a deliberate constraint designed to intensify selection pressure on himself. The visual symbolism associated with Kraven, particularly the use of animal pelts, often gets misinterpreted as savagery. In anthropological terms, wearing elements of hunted animals has historically served psychological and social functions. It reinforces identity, signals competence, and creates a cognitive association between the hunter and the traits of the prey. This behavior is documented across cultures, from Paleolithic societies to early modern warrior traditions. Kraven's appearance reflects continuity with these ancient practices, rather than regression into irrational brutality. What separates Kraven from ordinary hunters is his refusal to recognize modern moral hierarchies as absolute. He operates under a personal ethical system shaped by natural selection rather than social consensus. This places him in direct conflict with characters who represent technologically enhanced or socially sanctioned power. From a narrative standpoint, this contrast is essential. Kraven is not an enemy of order. He is an enemy of artificial dominance. Scientifically, the most unsettling aspect of Kraven is not his violence, but his logic. He does not deny science, progress, or intelligence. He simply rejects the assumption that evolution stopped rewarding predatory competence. In ecological systems, removing apex predators destabilizes environments. Kraven sees modern humans as a species that voluntarily removed itself from the top of its own hierarchy, becoming dependent rather than dominant. This is why his obsession is never random. He seeks individuals who defy natural limits, not because they are threats to society, but because they represent evolutionary anomalies. His pursuit of such targets functions as a form of natural audit. In his framework, any being that claims superiority must prove it under conditions stripped of artificial advantages. Chapter 01 establishes Kraven not as a villain driven by madness, but as a coherent response to a biological contradiction. Humans are apex predators by design, yet they live as if that role no longer applies. Kraven's existence forces the question that modern civilization avoids. If the structures protecting humans disappeared, who would still function at the top of the food chain? This question does not belong to fiction alone. It belongs to evolutionary biology, behavioral psychology, and anthropology. Kraven is unsettling because he does not invent a new identity. He reactivates an old one that never truly vanished. To understand Kraven's logic, it is necessary to step away from superhero mythology and examine the biological foundation of hunting itself. Long before agriculture, cities, or written language, humans survived through a strategy that no other large mammal relied on to the same degree: endurance hunting. Fossil records, isotopic analysis of ancient bones, and ethnographic studies of modern hunter-gatherer societies demonstrate that early Homo sapiens were not built to overpower prey through raw strength or speed. Instead, they succeeded by outlasting it. Humans possess a unique combination of traits that favor long-distance pursuit. Upright posture reduces energy expenditure over distance. Elastic tendons store and release mechanical energy. A high density of sweat glands enables efficient thermoregulation, allowing sustained activity under heat stress. Most quadrupeds overheat quickly when forced into prolonged exertion. The hunt was not a sprint. It was a slow, calculated erosion of the prey's physiological limits. Kraven's methodology mirrors this ancient pattern. He does not rush. He observes movement patterns, studies breathing rhythms, evaluates terrain, and waits for fatigue to become a weapon. This approach aligns with what modern physiology calls cumulative stress exploitation. Performance does not collapse suddenly. It degrades predictably as glycogen depletes, hydration drops, and neuromuscular coordination falters. A hunter who understands these thresholds gains control without needing superior force. This is why Kraven's preparation is as important as the confrontation itself. His training emphasizes cardiovascular efficiency, muscular endurance, and metabolic resilience rather than maximal strength. In scientific terms, he prioritizes aerobic capacity and fatigue resistance. Studies on elite endurance athletes and military operators show that individuals with moderate strength but exceptional recovery and situational awareness consistently outperform stronger but less adaptable counterparts under prolonged stress. Equally critical is Kraven's mastery of attention. Predatory focus is not emotional aggression, it is cognitive economy. Neurobiological research demonstrates that experienced hunters and trackers enter a state of narrowed but heightened perception. The prefrontal cortex reduces unnecessary processing, while sensory integration becomes more efficient. This state is similar to what psychologists describe as flow, but under lethal conditions. Kraven's calm demeanor reflects this neurological adaptation, not detachment or cruelty. The choice to avoid advanced weaponry further reinforces this framework. Tools that minimize risk also minimize feedback. When distance and automation increase, the hunter learns less about timing, resistance, and error. Primitive weapons require precise coordination between perception and action. Missed strikes are costly. Success depends on biomechanical accuracy and emotional regulation. Kraven's reliance on such tools transforms every encounter into a data-rich test of capability. One of the most misunderstood aspects of Kraven's behavior is his selective targeting. He does not hunt indiscriminately, nor does he focus on the vulnerable. From an evolutionary perspective, this would be inefficient. Predators that consistently choose weak prey do not improve their own adaptive range. Challenging prey forces neurological and physical recalibration. This principle is observable in nature. Predators that face difficult hunts develop superior strategies or perish. Kraven adopts this rule deliberately. This logic explains his fixation on individuals who transcend ordinary human limits. These targets represent anomalies within the system, beings who disrupt expected hierarchies. In evolutionary biology, anomalies are informative. They reveal the edges of adaptation. Kraven's hunts function as stress tests, not acts of random violence. He seeks to determine whether extraordinary claims of superiority hold under conditions stripped of protection and advantage. The psychological dimension of this behavior is often reduced to obsession, but research on high-risk professions suggests a different interpretation. Individuals who operate in environments where failure is fatal tend to anchor their identity to competence rather than social approval. Their sense of meaning comes from mastery under pressure. Kraven exhibits this pattern consistently. His self-worth is inseparable from performance, and performance can only be validated against the strongest opposition. This mindset also explains his rigid personal code. Unlike impulsive aggressors, Kraven adheres to rules that constrain his behavior. Codes serve a functional purpose in extreme contexts. They reduce decision fatigue, stabilize identity, and preserve focus. Anthropological studies of warrior cultures show that strict ethical frameworks often coexist with high levels of violence, not to justify it, but to contain it. Kraven's honor system reflects this adaptive mechanism. Another critical element is his relationship with fear. Fear is not absent, it is regulated. Neurochemical studies reveal that trained individuals do not eliminate fear responses. They reinterpret them. Elevated cortisol and adrenaline sharpen perception when properly managed. Kraven's calm under threat indicates familiarity with these internal signals. He uses physiological arousal as information rather than allowing it to dictate behavior. The herbal compounds associated with Kraven, while fictional in potency, are conceptually grounded in real ethnobotany. Many cultures have used plant-based substances to enhance stamina, reduce pain perception, and delay fatigue. While modern science recognizes the limitations and risks of such compounds, the underlying principle remains valid. Temporary modulation of the nervous system can extend functional capacity within biological limits. Kraven's use of these tools reflects applied knowledge rather than magical transformation. What emerges from this analysis is a portrait of a man who treats the human body as a system to be optimized through exposure, stress, and refinement. This approach contrasts sharply with modern paradigms that emphasize safety, predictability, and risk avoidance. From Kraven's perspective, removing danger removes feedback. Without feedback, adaptation stagnates. This belief places him at odds not only with his opponents, but with civilization itself. Modern societies are built on buffering individuals from direct consequences. While this increases survival at the population level, it reduces individual variance and competence. Kraven interprets this as evolutionary complacency. His hunts are an attempt to reintroduce selection pressure, albeit in a highly personal and ethically controversial form. Chapter 2 reveals that Kraven's actions are not random acts of brutality, but extensions of a coherent biological worldview. He behaves as if natural selection never stopped operating, only changed its visible mechanisms. By reconstructing ancient hunting principles within a modern context, he exposes a tension that science continues to explore. Humans are technologically advanced, yet biologically unchanged from ancestors who survived through direct confrontation with the natural world. This tension is the foundation of Kraven's relevance. He does not represent a return to the past. He represents the unresolved presence of that past within the modern human nervous system. The final dimension of Kraven's existence lies not in his techniques or physical conditioning, but in the paradox he exposes within modern humanity. From a biological standpoint, humans remain the same species that evolved under conditions of constant risk, scarcity, and competition. Genetically, there has been no meaningful divergence in the last tens of thousands of years. Yet behaviorally, humans live as if those pressures no longer apply. Kraven occupies the fracture line between biology and culture, forcing an uncomfortable reconciliation between what humans are and how they choose to live. Modern evolutionary science recognizes that adaptation does not stop when environments become safer. Instead, selective pressures shift. Cognitive specialization, social cooperation, and technological dependence replace direct physical confrontation. However, this transition creates a biological lag. The nervous system, endocrine responses, and musculoskeletal design of humans remain tuned for environments that demand alertness, resilience, and decisive action under threat. Kraven interprets this lag not as a flaw, but as evidence that predatory competence remains essential, even if dormant. This interpretation challenges a central assumption of contemporary ethics, that progress equals detachment from violence. Anthropological evidence complicates this view. Across cultures, societies that eliminated all forms of ritualized confrontation often developed alternative expressions of aggression, stress, and dominance. Suppressed behaviors rarely disappear, they transform. Kraven's worldview treats controlled confrontation as a stabilizing force rather than a destructive one, echoing models seen in traditional warrior societies where violence was regulated, purposeful, and bounded by strict codes. His final hunts are therefore symbolic as much as physical. They are attempts to resolve a contradiction that modern systems leave unresolved. If humans claim mastery over nature, yet rely entirely on artificial protection, is that mastery real or illusory? Kraven's insistence on stripping away external advantages is an attempt to answer this question empirically. Only under minimal conditions, he believes, can true capability be measured. This belief places him in direct opposition to figures who represent synthetic evolution. Genetic modification, cybernetic enhancement, and technological augmentation introduce a new form of selection, one that favors access over adaptation. From a scientific perspective, this raises legitimate questions. When performance depends primarily on external systems, the organism's intrinsic limits become irrelevant. Kraven rejects this trajectory, viewing it as a departure from evolutionary continuity rather than its extension. Psychologically, this rejection reflects an extreme form of identity anchoring. Kraven defines himself through invariant principles rather than mutable tools. Research on identity formation in high-risk populations shows that individuals exposed to unstable environments often develop rigid value systems to preserve coherence. These systems reduce ambiguity but increase conflict with changing social norms. Kraven's inability to compromise is not a narrative flaw. It is a predictable outcome of his cognitive framework. His ultimate fate reinforces the scientific consistency of his character. Rather than seeking endless survival, Kraven seeks resolution. In biological terms, this aligns with terminal investment theory, which suggests that organisms facing perceived decline may allocate remaining resources toward a final defining effort. Kraven's final actions are not motivated by despair, but by completion. He seeks a definitive answer to the question that defines him: whether a human, unaided and uncompromised, can still stand at the apex. This conclusion distinguishes Kraven from conventional antagonists. He does not aim to rule, destroy, or convert. He aims to conclude an experiment. The outcome matters less than the integrity of the test. From a scientific standpoint, this makes his arc unusually coherent. Hypothesis, method, observation, and closure are all present. The experiment is ethically indefensible by modern standards, but methodologically consistent within its own framework. Kraven's legacy, then, is not measured in victories or defeats, but in the question he leaves behind. As automation increases and physical demands decrease, what happens to a species built for endurance, confrontation, and adaptability? Current research on mental health, stress disorders, and behavioral dysregulation suggests that removing challenge does not eliminate strain. It redistributes it. Anxiety, depression, and identity diffusion rise as direct feedback diminishes. Kraven's philosophy, while extreme, anticipates this dilemma. He represents a cautionary figure, not because he embraces violence, but because he refuses to let biology be ignored. Civilization advances by buffering risk, but biology advances by responding to it. When these forces diverge too far, instability emerges. Kraven exists in that gap, embodying the cost of ignoring evolutionary inheritance without providing a socially acceptable solution. In the end, Kraven is neither hero nor monster. He is a biological argument expressed through action. His story forces a confrontation with an uncomfortable truth supported by science. Humans did not evolve to be passive observers of their environment. They evolved to engage with it directly, physically, and decisively. Whether modern society can integrate that reality without descending into chaos remains an open question. The hunter's legacy is not a call to return to the past, but a warning about forgetting it. Evolution does not erase old systems when new ones appear. It layers them. Kraven is one such layer, resurfacing to remind humanity that beneath technology, comfort and abstraction, the ancient machinery still runs. If this analysis changed the way you see human evolution and modern identity, follow for more science-based breakdowns that connect biology, history, and culture beyond the surface.